can you get from here? There's nothing. It's perfect. Perfect.
What can you get from here?
What can we? Country
music, beer, your best friends, and the time of your fucking life. There's nothing else. That's it. Sorry. You know.
I know that county line bar where they all know my drink. When she throws her hands up, that got around place. I love the taste of her lip when she's been sipping that wine. Still get drunk on her every time. I love a small town girl. I love a country girl. I love a Friday. You got it. And I love it. Sounds of an old dirty road rolling through my mind. Man, I love this life. Whoa, sing it. Whoa, you sound so good.
So have you guys been here before?
Yes, I haven't.
Okay.
First time. Popping the cherry.
I've been playing with Eric now for 11 years, so I've played on every track that he's ever released, you know. I was very fortunate. I knew Jay Joyce, his producer, and Jay called me up one day and was like, hey man, you want to come over and play on some demos for this guy, new guy, he's going to be on Capitol. I was like, sure, and you know, we cut 5-6 songs, and like 3 of them, I think, ended up on his first record, and so I got to do the rest of the record because of that. And then when they were putting together a band to do showcases and opening slots, they called up and asked if I wanted to do it. And my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and I needed something more steady for a little while, and I figured, yeah, this will work for about a year. And man, it's been 11 years. You know, I thought for sure, you know, the way record deals in Nashville come and go, maybe 9 months, a year, and we'd be done. But we just kept going. We just kept playing shows. Crowds kept getting bigger. And then the Chief record hit, and, you know, everything just blew up. It just really snowballed from there. You know, like there was times when it first started out in clubs where we were carrying our own little lights in shoe boxes, or like, you know, cardboard boxes, and putting them up. We built our own first little ego risers for the guitar players to stand on. We had a backdrop that the bass player would step on this switch and the magnets would release and the backdrop would come down, and you know, and it went from that to arena shows with pyro and all that stuff. And then we ditched the pyro and we went to End the Round, and that was the Outsiders tour. That was the freakiest thing ever. You know, I was telling you, I started out because of Peter Criss. Well, I got to be Peter Criss kind of because I started the night in the video cube, and the drums came down, you know, like 50 feet every night. So that was pretty sweet. You know, as silly as that sounds in a way, like for a country show, it was pretty badass. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because, you know, it hit that first big downbeat of the chorus of Outsiders, and the lights would come up, and here I come out of the ceiling. Everybody just phones, and so, you know, that's pretty cool. And, you know, like tonight, it'll be more kind of like a big club show in a way, because we don't have all the big production. And you know, it'll just not be as bombastic as like maybe our arena show will be next year. that's totally cool too, because it just gives a different vibe. And it's a different set list every night. We change things up all the time. You know, like the first few songs are usually the same, but then the middle of the show gets changed up pretty much every night. So it'll be fun.
Now, when do you find out what the set list is going to be?
About 2 minutes before the pre-roll starts. I mean, here lately it's been last minute, like straight up last minute. Everybody, guitar techs especially, can be scrambling, trying to know what's coming, you know, because they got a million guitars to deal with. Me, I just want to know what the first 3 songs are. The rest of it, I'll figure it out as we go, you know. Having it be different every night is cool. Keeps it from getting too boring, for sure. Because I like to say, you know, we're not really artists out there, you know. We're more like carpenters. We're trying to build the same house every day. You know, same foundation, same walls, all that stuff. You know, there's room here and there for you to throw in your little taste of something different, but you know, for the most part, you know, you're just trying to build the same damn house every night.
That's great.
You know?
Man. Wow.
So.
That's great.
We're more rock for sure than country straight up. I mean, there's definitely that edge. But you know, like 3 of us in the band are 49 years old. We're classic rock guys. We got one in the utility position playing banjo and acoustic and mandolin. And then our stage left guitar guy, driver, he's straight up metal, you know, guy. He loves Pantera and Metallica and, you know. That's what's cool, you know. You can bring all these different influences in and still come up with something that's viable in whatever the country market is right now, you know. Hopefully we get to stick around for a little while. I'm always happy for anybody to see us the first time. You know, I'm proud of this band. It's the band that I always wanted to have out of high school. You know, I always wanted to take a band that nobody knew about and it was nothing and blow it up into a big old deal. And that's what we've been able to do. It's been really cool. I just didn't know I'd be this old when it happened. You know, I feel like we're all just a bunch of knuckleheads out here avoiding real work. You know, I always say that you know, it's better than working for a living. You know, whenever anybody asks me what I do, because you know I haven't had a job since 1988, which in my mind that's the most successful thing that I've done. Way more successful than even this. Just being able to pay the bills and keep working, stay married, and all that stuff. You know, that's been really cool. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even as many times as I've been mad at music and the music industry, or the way I'm playing, just being sick of me, you know, hearing me play. I still love it. You know, I can't get enough of it.
How does Nashville inspire you?
Oh, you got to pay your mortgage, man. That'll inspire you more than anything. Paying for gas in your truck, paying for your children to eat. I never play music or golf with money in my pocket because you always got to play like you're hungry and you're broke. Wow. And that's the straight up truth. In the studio, in a club, up here, it doesn't matter. If I reach down, I got a penny in my pocket, I get rid of that. You know, that's the only superstition I got. And you know, Nashville's so competitive. If anything, what drives you is to just not let everybody forget that you're there and you're available. And you know, just know that there's 100 other guys that are more than willing to go play drums for you, or guitar, or bass, or any of the other stuff. You know, that'll motivate you quick.
Right on.
and not having to move back in with your parents. You don't have to do that. There's very few musicians that that aren't self-conscious or that aren't insecure about their playing. Yeah, you got to have an ego to do this. If you don't have an ego to get up on stage in front of people, you're in the wrong business. And there's plenty of people that show off their ego in different ways, but usually it's the guys that are the biggest pain in the neck that are the most insecure. And I beat myself up every time I hear a track back. Every time I hear something on the radio, which this is so stupid. That sounds egotistical, but I'm so fortunate to be on the radio and hear my tracks on the radio sometimes. But I'll hear stuff that's like, oh, I wish they would have fixed that. We have the technology, but at the same time, it's human. That's one thing I got to give like Jay credit for, or Jay Joyce. He didn't bump me around all over the place on Eric's stuff over the years. If you hear a snare hit that's a little behind the beat, that's because that's where I played it, which can make me cringe from time to time, but the general population doesn't hear that necessarily. You don't, in the grand scheme of things, when you're seeing the big picture, you're not focused in on that. You're hearing the lyrics, you're hearing the melody, you're feeling the bass, all those things. So, but it's hard for me to cut a track and then go in the control room and listen to the take more than a time or two. Because then I start picking myself apart and I just want to fix stuff or recut or whatever. Eric's told the story. I offered to pay to recut the song Mr. Misunderstood myself. I said, I'll pay everybody, I'll pay the studio time, just please let's recut that track. Because I just wasn't happy with it. It was what we wanted it to be, but that's the first take on the first day, first run through, kind of thing. And it had that energy, but it almost had a little too much energy for me. I feel, I don't know, that track still makes me a little uncomfortable. I do as much session work as I can. I was lucky enough to play on Dierks Bentley's Riser record. I did about 3/4 of that. Actually, it was me and Lee Hendrix, Eric's bass player, and we got to do about half of Dierks' new record as well. I just played on Angelina Presley's new record. And that to me is what I really love to do as well. I love to play live, and it's great to be in front of people and all that, but it's like leaving the legacy of albums behind. Like if you look up me on All Music, it surprised me. I did it a few months ago just on a whim. And it was like hundreds of things. I couldn't believe, It really surprised me. And I saw the whole thing kind of as a career all of a sudden, because it really started like when I was 19, I guess. There's a few ways to look at it. There's a website called Saving Country Music, and this guy is really down on all like the new country stuff. And my question is, what country music are we saving? Are we trying to get back to the Louvin brothers? I don't know what they're talking about. Eddie Rabbitt came out with a song called Superstition or Suspicion, something like. I get these suspicions in like the 80s, and it was very disco-y and all that stuff. You know, country has always moved forward. From the time that they put the Grand Ole Opry on TV and they made them dress up in country style clothes in like the 40s or the 50s, you know, it's always been changing and evolving. You know, to think that country music can go back to being the white man's blues again, I think it's a little far-fetched. You know, the influence of pop and the disappearance of rock, really, like true rock radio, has made it so people kind of have gravitated towards making country more rock, more hip-hop, more poppy, you know, and there's a backlash in that. You know, Americana has kind of come on, you know, the stuff that's coming out of Austin or, you know, some of these other towns. You know, that's all real cool and everything, but country radio's not ready to embrace it yet, you know. And I love old hillbilly music, you know, bluegrass, straight up bluegrass, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think for a minute that you can ever stop what's happening in country. It's just going to keep happening that way. And really, right now, I feel like, you know, we're kind of the classic rock guys in country, where, like, you know, Sam Hunt is doing the more hip-hop stuff, right, you know, or somebody like that. So, you know, as long as I keep playing drums, I don't care. You know, it's just all music to me, really, right, you know. And really, that's the way most players that I know look at it. You know, yeah, you know, we've got different things that we like to listen to and would maybe prefer to do, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you're getting to play and, you know, you can go to bed at night saying, yeah, man, I got to play tonight. That's cool. That's totally cool.
Music is music.
Music is music. You know, there's good and bad, for sure. But
right,
whatever's good to you, that's what really means something, you know. And hell, I'm convinced that pretty much if I didn't like it when I was in high school, where I was like really being influenced by new stuff, I probably am not going to like it now, really. Right. You know, it's not to say that I don't respect new stuff or, you know, I can't get into it, but it's just the way it is. You know, nothing's going to move me like hearing Little Feat for the first time. You know, there's another one, Richie Hayward. Love Richie Hayward. Okay. I mean, holy cow. Yeah. Steve Jordan. So, 1975, Kiss came on TV on like Don Kirshner's rock concert or something like that, and boom, you know, I was blown away, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to figure out how I could be in a rock band. And, you know, within 2 years, I had my first drum kit when my family moved to Nashville. But, you know, whether or not he's like an influence on me playing-wise, I'd say no. You know, I like guys like Jim Keltner and Steve Gadd, and my favorite drummer in the world really is Tommy Ardolino, who was the drummer for NRBQ. If you don't know the band NRBQ, please find out who they are. He's the swingingest drummer you will ever hear in your life. NRBQ, the New Rhythm and Blues Quartet.
people just starting out to play the drums?
Stay in school, have something to fall back on. That's typical, but man, you just really got to want it. You got to, like, it's more than just wanting to play drums or play music or anything like that, because you can do that your whole life with your friends, and whether you play in clubs or not, or in your bedroom, that's totally cool. But if you want to, take it to the level where you're actually making a living at it and that kind of thing, you have got to want it. I mean, there's so many guys that want to do that, and it's 100 deep for your chair at any given time in a city like Nashville. And I had a lot of years where I made about $10,000–$12,000 a year. But I never quit. I just kept doing it. Kept stringing sessions together, or club dates together, weddings. I still got my tux from all the weddings that I did. Stirring the soup and playing Satin Doll for people, at the wedding receptions. But I would say the number one thing, if you think you want to do this for a living, you better want it in the end. There's luck involved, and there's like who you know or who you get introduced to along the way, and making the most out of those opportunities. I know for me, I just said yes to everything. Anybody that asked me to play drums, I said sure. If I could be there, I was there. And you say yes until your schedule is so full that you have to say no, and you have to sub it out to somebody else. And it takes a lot to get to that point, because there's always something to go do if you're willing to do it. I mean, I've done every gig there is. I did it. I played with a band when I was first out of high school. First time I ever went to England, and we did a month in England, riding around in a converted bread truck, about a 1963 bread truck with plywood seats with the gear behind us. And we played this one festival like this, kind of out in like sheep country, and the crowd was up on a hillside, and we were down on a flatbed truck, and it was so cold and rainy that nobody wanted to get out of their cars, so they had the cars parked on this hillside. Wow. And they just rolled down their windows and listened to the music, and for applause they flashed their lights and honked their horns.
Oh my God.
It was surreal.
It's like a movie.
It was straight up surreal.
Wow.
I was like 18 years old. It was awesome. But I figured, one gig's as good as the next.
People show their appreciation in different ways.
Yeah, it was freaky but cool.
It's better than getting bottles thrown at you.
Quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had that kind of scene too. Wow. But it's all part of the game.
I'm Dean.
I'm Craig.
I'm T Greens.
And you've been checking out Detroit Drum Dreams.
love the way your hi-hats are set up.
Oh yeah, that up the middle
Yeah.
thing. Okay, I'm not running that anymore.
No? Oh.
No, I did that for a couple of years.
Darn.
And that was really cool. You know, it was cool to be able to play open, because
Yeah.
I've never been able to lead with my left hand.
That's what I play. Is like.
You play open?
Yeah. So I have my rise over here too.
See, I'm jealous of that.
So,
I'm very jealous of that.
Right-footed, you know,
Mm.
and right-timed.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm very right-handed in that respect, and that was just, it was a really cool feeling to be able to
Yeah, I
play
bet.
like that. Even though, like, if you did stuff that was like 16th oriented, you kind of had to do paradiddles
Yeah.
because you end up whacking yourself in the wrist half the
Right.
time or something. But yeah, that's a company, Legacy Percussion, that makes that. There's a couple of guys in a garage.
Nice.
That I think the guy's in Dallas now, and I just haven't talked to him because I haven't been using it,
Okay.
you know. But yeah, that was
Did
really fun.
The open do for your playing vocab, you know?
It made my left hand, my snare hand, a lot freer. It felt like like just the hi-hat wasn't in the way of the snare sound, or just the way I was attacking it, which was cool. And really, to be honest, the reason I even looked into putting the hi-hat up the middle was because I made that kit into a double kick drum kit.
Yeah.
And I'd never had a double kick drum kit before in my life. And when I set it up, and the hi-hat was way kind of behind me, like Lars Ulrich style.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get it where I liked it. You know, it just was never where I wanted it. So I was like, well, I'm gonna try getting a hi-hat that goes up the middle. And that's how I kind of arrived at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that we get paid to sit around all day. It's the playing I do for free anytime. You know, it's definitely being away from home and not seeing your family. That's what I feel like I get paid for. You know.
I can make a living out of walking in the woods. You can bet I be sitting pretty good. High over here, looking at the field down. I can make a nickel out of turning in fast. Never worry about the price of gas. I be sitting around reeling in. Fishing, loving every day. That's a prayer that a country boy prays. Thank God he made me this way. Fishing, loving every day. Early in the morning, late in the evening, getting rich, very little pay. Fishing,